Hello, fam. I want to talk about Representative Jasmine Crockett and the recent controversy surrounding her comments about Governor Greg Abbott. But I'm going to need you to lock in on the hypocrisy of the Christian Republicans and their response to Jasmine Crockett's statement. As you guys probably already know, Representative Jasmine Crockett, she made headlines for comments about Texas Governor Greg Abbott, referring to him as Governor Hot Wheels and a hot A mess at the Human Rights Campaign's annual dinner. Now, Jasmine Crockett claimed that her comments were strictly directed at Abbott's policies only, specifically him transferring migrants to Democratic cities, where many people saw it as a jab at the governor's disability. Well, I personally don't believe for a minute that she wasn't making fun of him being in a wheelchair, but do you MAGA people really care about respect and decorum? I mean, after all, remember this?
There are also those who claim that our reform efforts would ensure illegal immigrants. This too is false. The reforms I'm proposing would not apply to those who are here illegally. Not true.
Congressman Joe Wilson was officially reprimanded yesterday by his fellow lawmakers for calling President Obama a liar. Nancy Cortez reports.
None of us is happy to be here.
This was a first for Congress, an hour-long debate over a two-word accusation hurled by South Carolina Republican Joe Wilson at the president during his joint address to Congress last week.
We, at a minimum, are duty-bound to express our disapproval.
And to put him through this on the floor of the House, I think is unacceptable, and it is a partisan stunt.
The resolution is adopted.
Stunt or not, the House voted to formally rebuke Wilson after he was given one last chance to apologize to his colleagues and didn't take it.
For this action today will have done nothing for the taxpayers to rein in the growing cost and size of the federal government.
Congressman Wilson's wife took to the web to defend her husband.
And I said, Joe, who's the nut that hollered out, "You lie," or "You liar"? And he goes, "It was me." And I said, "No, really, who did it?"
The resolution of disapproval is essentially a slap on the wrist. But back in his conservative home district, Wilson is getting pats on the back, along with hundreds of thousands of dollars in new campaign contributions. Nancy Cortez, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Since she took office in 2019, Representative Ilhan Omar said she's received hundreds of racist death threats, often triggered by her Republican colleagues. The threats once again spiked this week in wake of Islamophobic comments directed at her by Representative Lauren Boebert. In a video that surfaced last week, Boebert suggested Omar, a Muslim lawmaker, was a suicide bomber. She recalled an alleged encounter at the U.S. Capitol, which Boebert said she turned to Omar in front of the Capitol Police and said, "Oh look, the Jihad Squad decided to show up for work today." Omar said the event never happened, but wrote, "Normalizing this bigotry not only endangers my life, but the lives of all Muslims. Anti-Muslim bigotry has no place in Congress." This is only the latest episode in the ongoing series of racism espoused by Republicans, particularly now by Republican women. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene's ascension to fame has been fueled by her racist attacks on her colleagues of color, from harassing Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in the halls of Congress to continuing to label foreign lawmakers of color as the Jihad Squad. And it has been on Prime that Representative Gwen Moore told me Greene bullied her to the point her staff filed a complaint with the Sergeant of Arms.
And can you tell me why so many people that support Donald Trump love conspiracy theories, including yourself? He seems to attract lots of conspiracy theorists.
Well, let me tell you, you're a conspiracy theorist, and the left and the media spreads more conspiracy theories We like the truth. We like supporting our Constitution, our freedoms, and America first. So
what about Jewish space lasers? Tell us about Jewish space lasers.
No, why don't you go talk about Jewish space lasers? And really, why don't you fuck off? How about that?
Thanks. Thank you very much.
It was a late-night hearing in that Republican-led House Oversight Committee over a measure to find the U.S. Attorney General in contempt. It got uniquely ugly and contentious after a question was asked to Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene by Texas Democrat Jasmine Crockett.
Do you know what we're here for? You know we're here about AG.
I don't think you know what you're here for.
Well, you the one talking about.
I think your fake eyelashes are messing up.
No, ain't nothing.
Hold on.
Listen.
And I would like to move to take down Ms. Greene's words. That is absolutely unacceptable. How dare you attack the physical appearance of another person?
Are your feelings hurt?
Her words down.
Aww.
Oh, girl, baby girl.
Oh, really?
Don't even play, baby
girl.
We are gonna move and we're gonna take your words down.
I'm just curious, just to better understand your ruling. If someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct?
What now?
Calm down.
No,
can you please calm down?
Don't tell me to calm down.
Calm down.
Because y'all talk noise and then you
You're
can't
out of
take
control.
Because if I come and talk about her, y'all gonna have a problem.
After all of those exchanges, there was a vote in the panel as to whether to kick Congresswoman Greene out of the hearing. Republicans voted to keep her in place, and she declined multiple requests to apologize.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, Republican Congresswoman, temporarily presided over the House of Representatives yesterday. And she made an attempt to quiet the chamber by calling for decorum. Here's how Democrats responded.
The members are reminded to abide by decorum of the House. The House will be in order.
Yeah, as you heard, the Georgia Congresswoman's calls for composure were met with a burst of prolonged laughter. It comes just months after Greene heckled President Biden repeatedly during his State of the Union address when she broke decorum and shouted, "Liar," and that among many other things.
Here's a piece from the Texas Tribune titled "Jasmine Crockett Criticized Over Comment Mocking Greg Abbott's Wheelchair." The Texas Democrat made fun of the governor during a speech over the weekend in Los Angeles to a LGBTQ rights group. U.S. Rep. Jasmine Crockett, Dallas, disparagingly called Governor Greg Abbott Hot Wheels to mock his use of a wheelchair Saturday, prompting fierce backlash from Republicans. Quote, "Jasmine Crockett is despicable," Attorney General Ken Paxton said on social media. Quote, "Shameful," U.S. Senator John Cornyn posted. Jasmine Crockett is the perfect spokesman for today's Democrats, out of touch and completely unhinged, said Mike, is that Marnelli, a spokesperson for the National Republican Congressional Committee. When you've got no message and no agenda, all that's left is hate. Well, that's kind of funny, because all I see from the Republican Christian right-wing political party is hate. Whether it be hating other religions, non-believers like myself, people with darker skin, people with different sexual desires, and children once they get out of the womb. Frankly, everyone is on the list, including their own, when they find a spine against hate or violence.
Our America is a pro-life nation, proudly. Have you watched these pro-abortion, pro-murder rallies? The people are just disgusting. Like, why is it that the women with the least likelihood of getting pregnant are the ones most worried about having abortions? Nobody wants to impregnate you if you look like a thumb. These people are odious on the inside and out. They're like 5'2", 350 pounds, and they're like, give me my abortions or I'll get up and march and protest. And I'm thinking, march? You look like you got ankles weaker than the legal reasoning behind Roe versus Wade. A few of them need to get up and march. They need to get up and march for like an hour a day, swing those arms, get the blood pumping, maybe mix in a salad.
In a THV 11 update, just moments ago, a House ethics panel released its report on former Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz, who is now facing serious allegations.
The report reveals he paid women, including a 17-year-old, for sex and used illegal drugs, including in his Capitol Hill office.
The investigation also found Gaetz violated multiple laws, including those prohibiting prostitution and statutory rape. The Ethics Committee has concluded there is substantial evidence of misconduct during his time in office.
Give me a break. These people are the provocateurs of hate and malice. In fact, when questioned about this, the supporters say, we need a tough guy. Stop being a soy beta boy, or don't be politically correct. We don't like that. All in order to justify cruelty and disrespect. They will talk about the power of freedom of speech to openly say the N-word and push against censorship, but is completely for censorship when it doesn't benefit them. As we can see this when you look at all the calls for Crockett to be censored.
At the video, you'll see me doing "Get him out of here" if you look at that video. And so there should be some decency for the United States House of Representatives. I don't care whether it's the State of the Union, which the president was well within his right to do. He's talking to Congress. He's talking to the House of Representatives, the senators. He's talking to the American people. And Governor Abbott is the chief executive for the state of Texas. And it's unfathomable to me that anybody would call any other member, whether it was a member, a congressman, whether it was a governor, or lieutenant governor, whoever it might be, a hot wheels or a hot mess. Those are, especially at the human rights seminar she was at, those kinds of comments. When I was growing up, Jack, my mother had a policy. If you said something bad or wrong, she washed your mouth out with soap. And I don't know if Jasmine's mother did her that way, but sometimes you have to know that you just can't denigrate people like she did. So you've got to have a sense of decency to this situation, this process. When we start calling each other names or other elected official names, God help us, we've got to put a stop to this. And that's the reason I filed this. And it doesn't matter whether it's Republican or whether it's Democrats, if they're calling each other names like that, calling them out in public, there's no place for it.
Heck, they don't even want the words slave to be mentioned in schools in order to make themselves feel comfortable and to continue brainwashing, inaction, and indifference towards Black people. Never mind these soft white males who can dish it out, but they can't take it on the chin in return, as noted with Elon Musk. I mean, he claimed one of his reasons for buying Twitter was because he wanted to ensure freedom of speech, but we all know that's BS, as he couldn't even handle the small pushback from Don Lemon and is constantly blocking and banning people who disagree with him on the very same platform that he wanted to save from so-called censorship. And what I find striking is that their untouchable leader that they mindlessly seem to worship has done far worse many times.
In a new poll, the first taken since this week's debate, all right, let me emphasize that. This is post-debate, so it includes their performance. Trump leading with 39% of the Republican primary vote, up 11 points from 1 month ago. That is a surge by any definition. And it is more than double his nearest competitor, Ted Cruz, at 18%, followed then by Marco Rubio, then Ben Carson. But it is Jeb Bush, who is in a four-way tie for 5th place with 3% of the vote, who Trump focused on today. Tweeting late this afternoon, Trump said, "The last thing our country needs is another Caps Bush, exclamation point, dumb as a rock, exclamation point." And at Jeb Bush has embarrassed himself and his family with his incompetent campaign for president. He should remain true to himself. These are among the many tweets Trump fired today at Bush.
Thankful. I said thanks
you haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet.
You haven't been alone.
In this cabinet.
We gave you, through this stupid president, $350 billion.
You will.
Reason. The FAA, which is overseen by Secretary Pete Buttigieg, a real winner. That guy's a real winner. Do you know how badly everything's run since he's run the Department of Transportation? He's a disaster. He was a disaster as a mayor. He ran his city into the ground, and he's a disaster now. He's just got a good line of bullshit. Jill, get your fat husband off the couch. Get that fat pig off the couch. Tell him to go and vote for Trump. He's going to save our country. Get that guy the hell off her. Get him up, Jill. Slap him around. Get him up. When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
Donald Trump provoking fresh outrage. This time, the Republican frontrunner is accused of mocking a reporter who has a physical disability. Trump, however, says he doubts he ever actually met the reporter in question, and Tom has more on that story. Good morning again.
Dan, good morning to you. All over the country, Trump tells his crowds how much he hates the media, that 70% of journalists are dishonest. Then he imitates some reporters he personally can't stand. It's all part of the Trump stump speech, but now some are saying Trump may have crossed the line just to get some laughs. In a campaign of firsts, Donald Trump appearing to go where no presidential candidate has gone before. The Republican frontrunner at a rally in South Carolina this week appearing to mock a journalist who is disabled.
And now the poor guy, you got to see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
That reporter, the New York Times' Serge Kovaleski, who has a chronic condition affecting his joints that limits flexibility in his arms. The New York Times saying, "We're outraged that he would ridicule the physical appearance of one of our reporters." It came as Trump defended his claim that he saw people in New Jersey cheering on 9/11. Law enforcement and government officials now denouncing that as false. But this is hardly the first time Trump has come under fire for offending someone. From some Mexican immigrants in that campaign kickoff speech.
They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists.
To Senator John McCain.
He's not a war hero. I like people that weren't captured, okay?
To women.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs?
Only Rosie O'Donnell. I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
I personally think Crockett's efforts would be better suited by being a tireless advocate and pushing for strong policies for Black people versus this foolishness. I mean, you might make the highlight reel with Roland Martin's panel, getting them excited, but there's no strong policies being mandated for Black people, and that's no laughing matter. Meanwhile, the white Christian right-wing party is making serious moves politically, and those moves exceed a temporary feel-good soundbite. But you white Christian Republicans love trolls, and Jasmine Crockett is just matching your energy. Paxton, Corian, or any of these immature MAGA trolls didn't call out or put Donald Trump in check on his disrespectful name-calling and uncouth behavior for multiple years. So don't be emotional and don't clutch your pearls now. Man up and be alpha.
They're new. They're authentic. They're the fastest miniature metal cars you've ever seen. New Hot Wheels, only from Mattel.